1949, the Atomic Energy Commission were helping to design a nuclear power station at Harwell, and in those days, when you were doing calculations to design anything, this is what you use, the hand crank calculator. It's got like 3 memory stores in it. You would not believe how heavy this thing is. It weighs about 40 pounds. This one's called a Brunsviga. You crank the handles and you do the sums and everything. Pretty tedious to use, and they decided they needed an awful lot of calculations. They had to build a computer. Now in those days, 1949 or so, if you wanted a computer, you had to build one. You couldn't buy one, so you had to build one. So they used some of the design work that had been done, some of the work had been done in the United States. They knew nothing about Colossus whatsoever. It was totally secret. No one knew anything about Colossus until about 1974, 1975. So they decided to build a computer. Now, at that time, 1949, it just coincided with Ericsson, yes, the same Ericsson as in Sony Ericsson, the mobile phone company, if they're still in business. I'm not sure whether they still are or not. Came out with something called a Decatron. And it was a counting device, a tube, which was a little neon light, and you can actually see it on here. The little neon light is going around, and it can stop at any one of 10 positions, so it can be used to store a number. Unlike Colossus, where the valves are hot, this is a cold valve. You know, to touch it, it's cold. Okay, so it's indestructible. We got millions of these. They just seem to last forever. So the idea was they would build a computer based on this. And when you build these, put these stores across, each row of 9 is one data store that holds about 4K. And there's about 90 of these, so this computer's got about 360K of memory. So now we've got memory at last. We're whacking right 360K, but at least we've got memory. 360K.
What have you got in your mobile now?
Well, never mind my mobile. Where is it? 16 gigabytes. 360K, 16 gigabytes. Now it's very visual because obviously all the lights flash. Now this is being restored. This actually switches on now. We finally got to the point of switching on. It's almost working. The point is, when this computer is working, it was switched on and live in 1951. This is the original computer. This is not a rebuild. This is the actual 1951 computer. When it's running, it'll probably be the oldest computer in the world.
Wow.
The oldest computer in the world. We're not aware of any other computer running that was running in 1951. So all the lights flash. It's very visual, quite easy to see. It's built from post office parts, very much like Colossus was. You can actually, it does the calculations. There's probably enough memory, if you're lucky, to actually write some programs. So you can write programs. There was a very early programming language. There's an instruction set down here. You can type in instructions and get it to do other things as well. The input is paper tape, but because the optical reader on Colossus, that was classified secret, they didn't know about it. In that era, the mechanism for inputting tape, it used little pins which poked through the holes, 3 to 4 characters a second. Whereas Colossus was 5,000 characters a second, but it was secret. So they didn't know about it, so they had to use the technology that was available today. 6 tape readers, so you could use them for different purposes to feed in data or to also feed in little instructions and that. So the thing quite happily ran. Once the nuclear reactor was live in April 1951, 52, they decided, rather than just break it up and throw it away, which is what they used to do with computers once they're finished, smash them, they decided to hold a competition and invited colleges to apply for this computer. And Wolverhampton and Staffordshire College won the computer, if you like, and were given it to use to teach computer science. So they took it. They renamed it the Wolverhampton Instrument for Teaching Computing from Harwell, W-I-T-C-H, which. Bit of a mouthful, but that's what it stands for. And they use it for teaching computer science till the 1970s. Very visual. You can see the lights flashing, and you can actually see the numbers being stored. If you had a number stored in this store here, it would actually say be 1.2348238 or something. Yeah. And you could actually see the digit for the particular where the number was. So it's quite good to understand how computers work. Now it's just little sealed boxes. You can't see anything going on. The idea of this computer will be if a group like you came in the future and this was fully running, we'd actually let you write programs, and you could actually feed programs into this thing and say do the calculations and everything, which really, we think, help you understand how computers work. One of the problems with computers today, as I said, they're black boxes, and even people doing computer science, you're too far removed. You've got Mac OS or Windows in between you and the computer. It's hard to get into the guts of the machine, and we think this will help with that. So they carried on using it until the 1970s. It ended up in a museum for a while in Birmingham, and then it was in a warehouse when we managed to get a hold of it. And the said guys have been working on it for a couple of years. and pretty close to getting the thing fully operational. One of the things, old things, obviously power supplies have to be rebuilt. You can't just switch old computers on. In fact, if you've got old computers and you thought, oh, well, we've had it in the loft, or Mum or Dad have had it in the loft for 5 or 10 years, could give it to the museum. That's great. We welcome any contributions, but do not switch them on if they've been sat there for any length of time, because solder joints dry out and you'll probably destroy a lot of components. So you have to treat old computers that have been sat doing nothing for any length of time need to be treated very carefully. So that's the late 40s, early 50s. Some of the other developments of the same era, unfortunately, we don't have the actual machines. We've only got bits. There was a big computing development in America. It was called EDSAC, EDVAC. They had all sorts of political problems. They never really got it off the ground for a while. Meanwhile, at Cambridge University, they built something called EDSAC. We've only got a few bits from it. EDSAC actually had memory as well, and it was a commercial machine. And then off the back of that, in Manchester, they built the Franti Mark I, which again, they actually sold 7 of them between 1951 and 54. And a guy called Williams designed this really weird thing called the Williams tube, and that was the basis of which data was stored well, I won't be bothered to explain it. You can read the actual, it's charged bits on the surface of this thing. As I said, they sold about 7 of them. Alan Turing was involved in the development of this thing at the University of Manchester. Now, there are other developments in that era that were quite interesting. There was a chain of corner coffee shops called Lyons Corner House. You're mostly too young to remember Lyons Corner House. Literally every corner.
There used to be one in Trafalgar Square.
Yeah, they were all over London. Okay, well, there's nothing special about that. But for some reason, this company, they had loads of these all over the place. For some reason, someone in that company had the brilliant idea they could use a computer to do all their office calculations. And it must be the first company in Britain that even occurred to them that they might do this. So based on similar designs to the Franti and this EDSAC thing, they actually commissioned a computer to be built. And they called it LEO, which stands for Lyons Electronic Office, LEO. And after the first one was up and running, they thought, wow, this is pretty good. We can spin off a business. And they actually then set up their own computing company as a spin-off company. It ended up being called English Electric, and then it became part of ICL, which is a very large computing company today. There's a few bits of the LEO there. So that was quite an interesting development as well, because there was a company that recognized it. And in this era of valves, you can see all the different variants of these vacuum tubes, or Americans call them vacuum tubes. People in Britain tend to call them valves. That all can be used to store data in what's called binary 0 or 1. It's much faster than a mechanical switch that switches one way or the other. And so valves were quite prevalent in computers, as I said, right up until 1960. Okay, so let's move to the 60s now. That's the 50s.
This is 50s.